Couple of things I'll mention before starting this video. One, if you hear the sound of wind, it's actually the fan. Usually it doesn't interfere with the microphone, but if it does, just letting you know that it's on. It's currently hot as shit in Australia at the moment, and it was either I turn that off so it doesn't potentially interfere with the microphone, but I'll have to go shirtless, or for your sake, I put on a shirt and leave the fan on. So I made my call, sticking with it. The second thing is that I tend to use a lot of foul language in my videos, so if you've got sensitive ears, this probably isn't the video for you, and you should go watch something else. Don't say you weren't warned. Alright, normally I break down my review of videos into 3 segments, and that's gameplay, graphics, and then audio. And keep in mind, I 2 days ago downloaded this version on the Xbox One X, because that's my primary console for multi-platform games. So, keep that in mind. I didn't play it on the PC or any other console. So, with that all being said, here's something else I'll bring up. The original game came out on PC in 2007. In 2011, they ported it to the Xbox 360 and the PS3, and I played the game on both of those consoles. I've never played the 2007 PC version, keep in mind. I'm just not really a PC gamer, and point-and-click games is one thing, but first-person shooters, I'm shit at that. It's not really my thing. It's my choice. Fuck you. So they had to, with the ported versions that they did in 2011, substantially downgrade the graphics just so it would run on the fucking thing, because, hey, remember that meme, will it run Crysis? Not on the fucking 360 and PS3. They also had to delete a level. It was a rail shooter level that took place towards the end of the game, so if you've played this game before, regardless of what console, towards the end of the game you wind up on a warship, and the level just before then was meant to be a rail shooter level where you're on the back of an aircraft shooting down other aliens. Pretty cool. If you like rail shooters like me, it would have been a lot of fun. They couldn't put that on the consoles though, I presume due to technical limitations, so they just removed it. And then when the Xbox One came out, I was playing the 360 version on that because it's backwards compatible, and I thought, you know what, there's no reason why today they can't just port the 2007 version over, which looks way better graphically. If you look up a graphics comparison video, it's like night and day. And so I thought there's no reason they couldn't just port that over, because an Xbox One's and a PS4's specs will be able to run this and handle it just fine. And so when I heard that EA had actually decided to pull a head out of their ass and remaster a few of their games, I was like, oh sweet, Crysis Remastered, that's a game I thought we'd never get. Because a few years ago I put a video on my YouTube channel, as in this one, about why we probably won't ever get a remaster of the Mass Effect trilogy, or the Crysis trilogy, or even Dead Space. And yes, I know there's talk at the moment that there's a remaster of the Mass Effect trilogy in the works, so I'm not going to say anything else about it until BioWare or EA actually confirm it themselves. But anyway, I'm glad that I was wrong at least about one of those entries in the Crysis trilogy. I'm like, okay, cool, so we're actually getting a remaster of that. EA is stepping up their game. We're going to get something here. And I thought, sweet, a remaster that looks even better graphically than the 2007 version? Sweet. The problem, however, is that I thought it was going to be a remaster taken from the better version, which was the PC version. It's not. This fucking remaster is just a repainted version of the 2011 ported version. Yeah, the problem with that is this, and this is where I'm going to get into the gameplay element. When you're running around and aiming and stuff like that, regardless if it's from the hip or looking down the sights of your weapon, aiming is bullshit. It probably was better on the PC version because of the fact that, a thumbsticks on a controller is different to using a mouse and a keyboard. And having not ever played a PC version of the game with the original or the remastered, I can't comment on it. I'm only going to comment on the stuff that I have played. And I have played the PS3 version, I have played the 360 version, and I played the Xbox One remastered version. So I played it on 3 different elements of consoles, and all of them the aiming was terrible. I felt like Seth MacFarlane in the movie Million Ways to Die in the West. If you haven't seen the movie, there's a part where he's trying to aim and he can't aim for shit. He was this far away from a can on a fence, not moving, and he couldn't hit it. That's how aiming feels in this game for me. And it doesn't matter how many times I try to adjust the controller sensitivity from hip fire, even down to a secondary sensitivity mode where you're looking down the sights. It's just shit. I would be fucking 1 meter away from a guy, and I'd still miss. So that was a pretty big problem for me, and I just thought, okay, probably it's because they didn't quite put a lot of thought into how they were going to adjust the sensitivity when they ported it from the 2007 original PC version to console. But that's important to note, because this remaster version, all they did was just copy and paste all the coding and stuff from that and just put much better, prettier looking graphics on it. And even then, there were some graphical fuck-ups that I came across. And keep in mind, I only played the remaster on the Xbox One X, so it might work better on other consoles, or maybe even the PC, but understand something. When it comes to the gameplay, that level that was present in the 2007 version of the PC game is not present in this remastered version, and that includes the remastered version on the PC, because all it is just a remastered version of the port. So they've okay, so in 2007 Crysis came out, they then ported that and downgraded it to console, they then remastered the console version and put it back to PC. What the actual roasted cunts on a fucking stick kebab were they thinking with this? Oh, fuck me. So, that's one thing that pissed me off with the gameplay. They removed that level, which they easily could have added back in, but they just didn't. I don't know if that was EA or the actual game developers, but someone's to blame for that, and whoever it is, fuck you and fuck your mother, motherfucker. As terms of other aspects of the gameplay, well, that's all I really got to go on. Other than that, it works kind of the same as it did on the PS3 and the 360 version. And I wasn't sure because I first played it on the PS3, and I thought, oh, maybe this will just be present in the PS3 version because the thumbsticks are more sensitive. It took more pounds of force to move a 360 controller, so when I later got it to that, because it came down in price then, nope, didn't work. I played on the 360, I then played on the Xbox One through the backwards compatibility, and then now, yeah, it's still not any better. The aiming is shit, okay? And I know I'm going to get a lot of people on here saying, oh, I played on the Xbox and I could aim like a champ. Well, good for you, but most of us aren't like you, are we? And I know I'm not terrible at aiming in games, okay? I'm not a competitive champion fucking legendary gamer, but I know I'm above average, and I have aimed really well and be able to get great headshots and stuff like that in third-person, first-person shooter games across the board. This is one where it was almost near impossible for me to get it just finely tuned. Because even if I could aim at something that was, say, 10 feet away, that sensitivity that I've set it to would be bullshit if I'm trying to aim at something that was maybe 100 yards away. So, fuck me and fuck my life, right? In terms of the graphics as well, that's really the only thing this ported remastered version has going for it. It's just that. It's just better looking graphics. But even then, I don't know the proper name for this glitch, if there even is one that exists, but say my hand's here at the screen, there'll be a part where there might be like half of the screen as I'm moving around looking left to right, up and down, where this will happen. Just like that. So there'll be half of the top part of the screen that'll sort of clip. I don't know what the term of this is, I just know what it did, and what it did was piss me right the fuck off. If I'm in the middle of a battle, I didn't notice it that much because I'm focusing on enemies and explosions and my nanosuit and all that kind of shit, but fucking, yeah, when it came to just walking around in a forest or something like that, I did notice it then, and yeah, it was really getting on my fucking nerves. I mean, for a game that was delayed so they could further enhance the graphics, it still fucks up on day one. Maybe they'll patch it later, maybe not, I don't know. All I know is that what I've currently got and what I played on day one release wasn't really that impressive to me. I mean, these days all fucking games have the ability to have great graphics. It's not something that's really going to impress people anymore. How good's the game? How good's the gameplay? And what good is all that stuff if it doesn't have a replay value? So, yeah, that's one thing that's really not going to make me want to come back to this game, is the fact they didn't quite fix the control schematic. And even with aim assist on, it's still fucking... No, it didn't help much at all. So, other things to mention with the graphics, motion blur is on by default. I fucking hate motion blur because it makes me feel dizzy and I always got to switch it off, so at least you can. But just for everyone else out there who doesn't like motion blur like I do, it's on by default. You need to switch it off. Something else that by default is switched off is the blood. So I went and switched it back on. So, I kind of just like blood in games. Call me crazy, but I kind of like, weapons when I'm shooting someone to have a realistic looking aspect to it. And when people are shot in real life, they tend to bleed. Other than that, in terms of audio, there's not much more I can say about that, except the fact that from what I can tell, I think it might just be a copy and paste of what they had with the 2011 console versions. If it's not, well, okay. Other than that, with the audio, I didn't experience anything in terms of lagging. I didn't experience any dropout, like where I would fire a gun and there would just be no sound or anything like that. So for the most part, the audio seemed to work really well. One thing that still confuses me with their audio choice of the guns, when you're having a assault rifle, you can switch it between automatic fire and single shot fire, but when it's an automatic fire and I gently nudge the trigger button, fire off one round, it's very light sounding, whereas if you switch it to single fire, the sound effects change and it's much louder. So that's, I don't know, it was just really weird. I don't know why they did that. I just thought it would have been better if they tuned it up to the way that the sound effects sound when it's in single shot mode, because it's louder and sounds much better, but it sounds like it's firing a much smaller caliber when it's in automatic fire, so that was always confusing to me. So yeah, other than that, I think PC gamers are going to be very much disappointed. And I know console gamers and PC gamers don't always see eye to eye, but I think one thing we can agree on with this is that we really deserve to have that extra fucking level. I say extra, sorry, no, the deleted level. We deserve to have that deleted level added back in. I can understand why most PC gamers would rather just play the 2007 version with mods to make it look more graphically enhanced. Because at least they still get to play with the extra level, which is not present even in the PC version. I don't know what dumb fuck thought this was going to be a good idea and why this wouldn't piss off a bunch of people, but it did. So yeah, in terms of price, I paid around $45 Australian for this. I don't know what it costs in the country you live if you live outside of Australia, but I'm sure it won't take you long to figure that out depending on what platform you want to play it on. So, based on everything I said, I can't speak on behalf of PC or Nintendo Switch or all the other platforms outside of Xbox One, because that's all I played it on. But if you want to play this game based on everything that I said, knowing the fuck-ups that it has, the levels that they've removed, the fact they didn't fix the aiming, and everything else that I mentioned, if it's worth the amount that it costs you, hey, go ahead and buy it. If it's not, well, don't buy it, I guess, and maybe then EA can get their shit together. Like, man, just when I was starting to have respect for the company, you motherfuckers fucked up. So, all I'll say is this, at least just with the console versions. Will it run Crysis? Yeah, it will. Do you want it to, though? That's up to you. So, thanks for watching. Go play some games.